Hello! So LatinVFR have created the A330 Airbus in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I've gone and bought it from the marketplace in Flight Simulator, and it was quite expensive given that it's not a study level aeroplane. And I've been having a little look at it, and we're going to take it for a quick flight to show you it. I am not that impressed. I'm going to come straight out of the gate and say that. For the money, I think it's overpriced. It's not a study level aircraft, as we said, but it's not far off price-wise from the likes of the Phoenix or the lower level PMDG 737s. And given that the Headwind A330 is already out there and is free, this is a real struggle to validate, why you would spend this amount of money. It's about £25, so getting on for $30. Why you would spend that sort of money on an aircraft that isn't very fully featured. Okay, so looking around it, let's be fair to it and have a look. It's well modelled all the way around. If we go around, there's nothing massively wrong with it. Having said that, look, you can see it stuttering like crazy. That's just Flight Simulator having a bad few moments. So let's go and look inside the cockpit. If I go to head tracking for that and have a look around, you can see the quality of the textures and the shapes isn't brilliant. It's good, but it's not brilliant. I think the trouble is we've been spoiled by things like the Phoenix. So when we go and look overhead, it really becomes apparent, look, with this kind of very low resolution texturing here and there. And the stipple pattern as well gives it away. But other than that, it's functional and it does what it says on the tin, really. So let's turn head tracking back off. So if we run through getting the aircraft up and running, we'll have a quick look at the tablet first. So it's got an EFB, and in here you've got the state of the aircraft with some basic stats, and it's got kind of this very childish interface, which is a bit of a shame. It's got the states that you can jump to for the aircraft to shortcut starting it up. It's got a ramp manager where you can switch all sorts of features on and off, like doors and stairs and service vehicles, things like that. It's got weather reporting, so you can put an ICAO code in. We're at Stansted, so we'll put the code in for Stansted and press enter and request a METAR, and it pops in, which is all well and good and quite useful. It's got a picture of a checklist, which isn't tremendously helpful. It's got a takeoff performance calculator. I haven't actually tried it yet, so I can't say how good or bad it might be. It's got Navigraph integration, so in the Navigraph settings, that's where you arrange your login with Navigraph. And then once you've done that, you can access all the charts as you would normally expect to. So if we put in EGSS, for example, and search, it will say we're at Stansted, and if we wanted to then look at departures, for example, we're going to be doing the BKY5R, so then that works exactly as per normal, which is fine. It's got this OANS system. I'm not sure what that's for, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And it's got SimBrief integration, so you put in your ID at SimBrief and then you can fetch your operational flight plan. And there's a button here to send it to the CDU. We'll try that in a moment. So before we get doing anything with that, let's go and start the aircraft up, shall we? So what have they done with the systems? So batteries 1 and 2 go to on, and if you look down, lots of this seems to have booted up extremely quickly, but that's not maybe a major concern. And we'll go and turn the ADIAS system to nav on the 3 systems there. We'll go and turn the nav logo light to 1 to tell people we're in the aeroplane configuring it. We'll go and fire up the APU, and we'll take note of how quickly it starts up. I have a funny feeling it's going to start remarkably quickly. Oh, maybe it's not that fast. Okay, we seem to have power from the APU, so we can put the APU bleed on. We're going to shortcut a few things here because not everything works anyway. So we'll go and put the fuel pumps on and just have a quick check around. we've got the seat belts there and the no smoking signs. We'll put the beacon light on while we're at it, and then we'll come down and start the engines. So we're still waiting for alignment there. So we'll turn the ignition system to start and ask for engine number 2 to start up. You see the numbers coming up. So it's a good basic version of the Airbus. It's just some of the niceties and the more polished things are missing. And maybe we have been spoiled by the likes of the Phoenix existing. Trying to give it a fair crack of the whip, really. So while that's all happening with the engines, they should come up on their own. We will go send this data to the MCDU, and let's go and have a look at it. So if we go to init now, it's got the data of the flight from SimBrief. So let's go and look overhead. Okay, so there's various bits that aren't operational, like if I click the wind button it doesn't seem to do anything. If I go to the IRS initialization, that seems to work. If we then go sideways from init, we get the zero fuel weight data and the takeoff weight, so that all looks good. And then if we go into the performance page, we can see we're taking off with flaps 1, for example, and we can pre-fill the vertical, the V speeds, and then come through and have a look at the various phases of flight, the data. Don't need to worry about too much of that. If we go into flight plan, notice the SimBrief integration doesn't pull in the SID and the star, so we need to go into the departure airfield, choose the runway and the departure we're doing, and insert that. And then if we go into Edinburgh and say arrival runway 24 and do the AGP E1E route and insert that, so that should have filled out the rest of the flight plan. So let's have a scroll through it, see if there are any discontinuities. No, it's all looking good. So I have noticed one massive bug in this. If we were to go and put another waypoint in, say we did TNT again, and we tried to put it in front of AGPED, in the normal Airbus MCDU, you would select the waypoint you want it to go in front of. Watch what happens. So we'll say the correct one, so there it goes, and it will put it after. If I scroll up, you can see it's inserted that TNT after AGPED, so that's wrong. It should go and push that one down, and they've said insert it after, and that's completely wrong. Anyway, that's the only massive howler of a mistake I've seen, to be honest. So we've changed that and got rid of it. If we now go and have a look, so the engine's up and running. Let's go and start engine. Whoa, it's being a bit flaky, isn't it? Go and start engine number 1. So it's taken a while for the nav to come up to speed. So let's go and set our cruise altitude of 36,000. We're going to use VNav on the way out, or managed mode as the Airbus calls it. So while that's coming up, let's go and press B to shortcut setting the barometric pressure. And the brakes, I've got anti-skid and nose wheel steering, that's all good. Auto brake max. The predictive wind shear isn't operable, unfortunately. We'll put the flaps though to takeoff position while we're here. So engines are up and running. Okay, so the APU bleed can come back off. The ignition system can go off, and the APU can be switched off. Okay, so let's go and taxi out to the runway. If we can make this turn without doing a pushback, it's not going to hurt too much. We're just testing it out today after all. So come off the parking brake. We need to arm the ground spoilers, so we should be able to pull up on this, and we can. Flaps are in takeoff position. We're looking good so far. The screen is now alive. So we really are flying through this. We're going to turn the flight directors on, and that's synchronized. It's a good point actually then. So does that mean that these are not independent systems? So if I went to the progress page, yeah, it's only one system. That's a shame. I wonder if that's true of the navigation displays as well. So if I change one of them, oh, that's a huge shame. So both navigation displays changed, which means you can't mix and match what you're seeing to help yourself. So yeah, it's a very basic version of the Airbus. I don't think it's as good as the headwind, and the headwind's free. It has those nice integrations with SimBrief and things like that. But it's just a shame, really. Let's put the head tracking back on. I'll hopefully stay on the taxiway and not go playing across the grass as we look at this. Okay, so we're just taxiing out to runway 22 here at Stansted. It's loading in assets, which is why it's stuttering so badly. This is the whole single threading problem with Flight Sim. It's become worse in recent updates. See, once it's seen the assets, it's a lot happier. Okay, let's just go full throttle then. So it's worth pointing out in terms of the throttle configuration, I've had to use the default sensitivity mappings for the Thrustmaster quadrant, because they've got the crazy curves, which this has been pre-programmed to work with. Just keeping an eye on the airspeed down there.
V1.
So we rotate gently, so no more than 3 degrees a second. We're in the air. Gear can come up. Back to the climb to 10 on the throttles. Autopilot can come on. Let's get the landing lights on. They should be on anyway, but the strobe's on. They should really have been on already. Where's the TCAS in this system, in this aircraft? Put it on to TA. Oh no, TCAS isn't operable. Okay, that's a shame. Or at least you can't choose between standby TA and TARA, but it has got the dotted lines, which means it's kind of on all the time. That's a shame. If we zoom out on this, this has got some crazy zoom levels on it that are entirely unrealistic. I think 10 is usually the minimum on an Airbus. I may be wrong, maybe the A330 has got higher zoom levels. So, let's just have a look around, put the flaps back up now, let the aircraft accelerate out, gear is up. And you can see the rendering on the navigation display is the basic one from the simulator. It's not very accurate. So we're going on managed mode on the altitude and the speed, so we'll just see how it manages this. It should go up to about 4,000 feet, I think, on this standard instrument departure, and then hold. But we'll see. It's good weather, isn't it, today? So transition altitude is 6,000 feet, so we'll try that out as well. Haven't looked at it from outside really, have we? I mean, it looks the part, doesn't it? So it's gone straight through 4,000 feet, but that may be accurate. Let's have a look. 4,000 should have been held until we were here, and it's climbed straight through it. So it's taking no notice, which is a shame. Okay, we'll let it get on with it. So the VNav isn't operating properly. So we come up to 6,000 feet now. So we're going to go and pull this to get standard mode. There we go. So that's corrected that. It was quite a long way out. Coming up towards 10,000 feet. At 10,000 we'll switch off the landing lights. Let's turn the head tracking off so it's a bit more stable, so we can see what's going on. So the speed brakes don't need to be armed anymore. .600 feet, 7, 8, 9, and the lights come off as we come through 10,000. It's a bit of a cloudy day. Okay, so we're going to let this fly to the destination. I'll pause recording and I'll unpause it when we get near to Edinburgh. Okay, so we can track that on the LittleNavMap. We've got also Navigraph running over here so we can see us leaving, making that left turn out of the standard instrument departure, and we're off on our way towards the Trent VOR now. And then heading north up the United Kingdom towards Edinburgh in Scotland. So I'll catch you in a few moments. Okay, we're back in the aeroplane and we are approaching not too far away from top of descent, and something I should point out is the weather radar works, which is really rather lovely. It's quite rare that the weather radar works to this extent. Obviously the weather today has played into our hands. You can see it's quite horrific. But we're just approaching Agped. If we go and have a look at the map in the LittleNavMap, we're just coming up to about 100 miles out from Edinburgh, and I'll start descending around about that time. But again, what we're going to do to descend is use managed mode just to see how it handles it. So when we get about another 20 miles further on down the road, we'll do that. So I haven't turned the seatbelt sign off, have I? Should we let everybody go to the toilet before we start the descent? We've only just got to top of climb, to be honest, a few miles back. But yeah, I'm impressed with this. I think something I'm not impressed with is when you look in the OFP, it's kind of got this simplified view of the OFP, but it's formatted really badly. And yeah, it's quite nice. Something else I noticed is I'm pretty sure that's not the accurate font for the MCDU. And that may be down to a licensing issue. There may be cost associated with using the accurate font. Maybe Airbus or somebody else owns the rights to it, and they would get really funny about it if it looked too much like the real thing. You know, if you didn't have the licensing for it. Okay, so shall we begin descending at least? We'll come down to 10,000 feet. And we'll do that as a managed descent. So we push the knob to make that happen. And let's just see what the airplane does in that situation. So it should come down to So there's an above 6,000 restriction there, but it should slow down to 230, and it's still on managed speed. So we'll see what happens with the speed when we get closer to that point on the journey. So not until Haven will it start to worry about speed. So if we zoom out a bit, see Haven is the next major waypoint in about 80 miles time. So as we have started descent, we're now having let everybody rush off to the toilet. They're going to have to rush back again. Okay. So while the aircraft is descending, let's have a little look at it from outside. So it is a pretty looking aeroplane. I have to give them that. They don't seem to have modelled any smoke coming from the engines, or maybe it's just super clean running engines that don't have any smoke billowing out of them, unlike things like the MD-82, which coats everything like it's spraying chemtrails. Yeah, it looks good. You've got to give it that. It looks very good. Look at this weather though. This is accurate weather today in the UK. We've had a horrific few days. Absolute torrential rain across huge parts of the country. So we're coming down about 2,600 feet a minute. So let's go and centre the view up, put ourselves on the head tracker and have a gaze around at the weather whizzing past. You sometimes still get those pixelated clouds, don't you? It's interesting. Not always. More often than they would probably like. Yeah, you can see them again now, look. I guess this is a bit extreme. So what we'll do, tell this to only come to 16 for the moment, because we're coming down quite rapidly. So it will level itself back out for a little while. Weather radar is quite something, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to pause again until we're a bit closer to Edinburgh, and then we'll come back to the aeroplane. So you can see it's leveled out at 16,000 feet, which is absolutely fine. Just coming in to descent. If you look at the restrictions, we've got 7,000 feet at Tartan, and you've got above 3,000 at CI24. So not much to do really. If we go and look at the ILS, you've got 108.9, 240 degrees. So if we go and look on the nav radio, you've got 108.9, 240 degrees. It's already programmed because it was part of the flight plan. So that's all done as well. My word, look at the weather. Don't often see it like that, do you? We're about to dip down into it in a few minutes. So if we zoom back out, actually what might be nice, because we've got Navigraph here, we can display the weather, can't we? So that's the night and daytime. Here we go, weather. Yeah, so just passing along the edge of this weather system. Very cool. Right, I'm going to pause here, and when we get a bit further down the route, maybe towards the deceleration point for the approach, I'll come back to you. Okay, I thought it might be better for you to see this in person, so I'm just going to adjust the sound so you can hear me over the top of the engines a little bit more easily. So yeah, we're just coming down into this cloud, and I thought it might be interesting to see what happens on the weather radar as we dip into it, whether it will just go dark or whether this is all going to light up like a Christmas tree as we get closer into it. So we're descending towards Haven, and let's put the head tracking on. That really is something, isn't it? The weather simulation in Flight Simulator really is something else, isn't it? So we're descending for 7,000 feet for Tartan. Sorry, for Haven. So if we go and have a look at this, yeah, Tartan should be on the way. Has this got Tartan missing? No, it's over there, I think. So this has got more waypoints than I've got, so let's have a look. Haven. Yeah, it hasn't got Tartan, has it? Interesting. So it doesn't completely match the plan here. Okay, we're getting closer. Just going to scoot forwards in the chair a little bit so we can see the wonderful clouds whizzing by. How are we doing? Down below 10,000 feet now, so landing lights are coming on. And let's just go and double check. Transition level by ATC. And then what about the actual transition altitude? It's interesting they draw the weather over the top of the page. 6,000 feet. It's fine. Okay. Wow, it's pretty, isn't it? Should we have a look from outside? So, looking at the legs, we've got, at Haven, we've got a 230 knot limit. We should be at 250 and we are at 250, so it's obeying the speed restrictions, which is good to know. We're going to go zero visibility very soon. We're dipping into the cloud right now. So we're not going to see much else for the next little while unless we dip in between clouds. Like that. Okay, let's focus on the instruments. So coming down to 7,000. The next target will be basically 3,000 by the time we turn in towards the airfield. This is where it's a shame you can't split the displays, so you could have landing system on one side and navigation display on the other. Or arc display, I should say. So we're still at 7,000 at the moment, so let's bring that down. We've got 30 miles until we need to get to 3,000 feet, so I'm loath to do it yet because I know there are big hills along here. So we have to be at 7,000 feet at Tartan, which isn't on here bizarrely. Should we see if we can program it before we get to the other one? So, it's after Haven, before DO27X as far as we're aware. So, TARTN. Now, as far as we know, we have to go and put it on Haven and it will go underneath it. No, it's messed up, look it. So that it doesn't understand doing that sort of thing at all. So we're going to leave it. You can't do mid-course corrections then. Not in the autopilot, not easily. So halfway between, what was it called? D027X. So that's the one. Yeah, LittleNavMap won't let us do this either. There should be another waypoint out here. So we'll wait for Tartan at 7,000 and then we'll start descending. It's complaining about lever asymmetry, which is interesting. Because I thought they were aligned with each other. So we're still just in this cloud layer. This is why I didn't want it to ascend, because I knew these hills were here. If we had gone down to 3,000 feet, we would have been going into zero visibility with hills only a couple of thousand feet below us. So it would have been an enormous accident. This is why we stay at 7,000 until a bit further on. Of course, now we can't see anything again. it's coming up to where Tartan would have been, and it isn't. But again, we're not going to worry. So we've got 3000 programmed in. So let's go for it now. We're going to use managed mode to do that. So we're pushing the knob in towards the I can never get the acronym right for this. FGCP, is it called? What would be the master control panel for the autopilot? Okay, so speed is slowly coming off. When we make the turn in towards the airport, we'll start preparing flaps and gear. So the plane is decelerating very slowly. It's edging it down towards 230 knots as we speak. Let's pull the range in a bit further then. Oops, too far. There we go. So Edinburgh is off to our left. Not that we can see anything out there. Let's have a look from outside. Oh, we can see some hills. So descending, descending, descending. We have got terrain radar. I'm not sure that it'll work very well, but we'll try it. I'm not sure what the warm-up time is on it before it starts rendering. So the auto throttle is sticking at just below 240 knots, isn't it? Doesn't want to slow down. Let's have a look at this from outside. So you can see just below us, you can just make out features going by as we descend. So we're below 6,000 feet actually. We need to go and set the barometric pressure for the destination airfield. So let's go and look that up. So looking at Edinburgh here, you can see where we are on the route coming in. We're going to open the airport up full size, go to weather, and we can see that we want 991 or 29.26. So we are showing 2883. So we can put that to hectopascals. It was 991, wasn't it? Just double check that. 991 hectopascals. There we go. So now the altimeter accurately reflects our position above sea level. Actual field elevation of Edinburgh is 136 feet. So we're going to start slowing down in a moment. So let's get the flaps out to their first position. Now that's going too fast for the auto throttle, look. So what we're going to do is throw the spoilers out. And then put the gear down, which will make us a lot more draggy. So we're about to make that final turn in towards the airfield. So we're at the 3,000 foot mark. Let's see if the landing display is any good at all. So it gives like a hybrid view of the map and the ILS. We're below the glide slope. We're obviously facing the wrong way at the moment. We're about to do a left turn. Watch the flight director. Watch the yellow bars. We're only on flaps 1 at the moment. So we'll wait and see if it decelerates much further. So let's come down to... It should have been turning by now. Is it going to go? If it doesn't, I'll take manual control and turn us. Autopilot's on. Heading mode is on managed mode. It should really be turning. Here it goes. So we'll turn the radar terrain back off. It didn't show anything anyway. You can see the water below us. You can see the rain streaming over the windscreen. This is going to be a good one, isn't it? So we are still below the glide slope and we're just turning in towards the localizer. So if you want to see where we are, we just overshot. Remember I said we should have been turning already and it didn't. So that's a failure of the guidance system. So that's this aeroplane being a so-and-so basically. So let's go for the next stage. And go for approach mode before we get below the glide slope. We should be able to go... No, we can only have one autopilot. That's mysterious. So that's not accurate. Should be able to have both. Maybe because we're not locked onto the localizer just yet. I'll try it again when we're on it. I mean, we could take over and fly in manually. It's not going to hurt. So we're on the glide slope now. We've captured it. We're descending 1,000 feet a minute. 2,500 feet on the radio. Altimeter over the ground. So in these sort of conditions, I would be inclined to let the auto land do its thing. We have just got visibility of the ground though, so it's not too bad. So let's see where we are. So just so we don't just discover that this thing works on autopilot, let's go and turn everything off. So this is me now. I'm just going to waggle the wings to prove it. Going to pull the throttles back. So we're going high, so we're going to come back down low. And we're going to put the spoilers out to lose some speed. We're off to the left. We can see the airport in front of us, so it's not as bad as we thought. We're going low now. Just pulling the aircraft back onto the approach. Oh, it's stuttering like crazy. It's a pretty approach, isn't it? Probably quite death-defying if you're not used to seeing this sort of thing in the sim.
500.
We're a bit high.
400.
Okay, pretty much about right now. A bit low now.
100. 60, 50, 40.
That seems wrong. That number it just read out
30.
is floating really badly.
Retard.
So not on the centre line, but as you can see, the conditions are not allowing that to happen. So flaps can come up, spoilers can come off, and we'll taxi out to the end of the runway. So that was maximum rudder, and it didn't want to crab into the wind to keep the centre line. That was a bit of a strange one, really. Off the nose wheel, brakes. What lovely weather. Let's put the head tracking on because it's really useful for taxiing actually. So the landing lights can come off, strobes can go to, whoops, off if we don't go rolling off across the grass. The nose wheel steering isn't very good, which is a bit of a shame. Seems a bit odd that the raindrops would be rolling up the screen. We're only doing 55 knots. Well, maybe they should. I'm not sure. Let's have a look from outside. Should we put the nose wheel? Sorry, the nose taxi light on. See what it looks like from outside. It's quite bright, isn't it? It's a big old aeroplane. Let's get some speed on, roll back in. So yeah, thoughts about this aeroplane. What do we think of it? It's functional, but it's not actually much of a step over the stock Airbus that's in the simulator, and I don't think it's as good as the Headwind. That said, it did manage the descent in. The VNAV seemed to work. I mean, okay, I jumped in and meddled with it along the way, and we're not going to make this turn now, are we? Get it back down to walking pace. You have to be so careful with some of these big jets. They don't like turning at any sort of speed at all. Let's pull ourselves in next to this. Is it an EasyJet? Yeah. You can see the tracking of the nose on the ground, it's not very accurate. Yeah, it didn't compress the nose leg either. This is the accurate version of Edinburgh, by the way, which is why you can see people sat in the cafe. And we're bathing them in light with our taxi lights at the moment. Okay, so do we get any... We haven't got external power, but look at it. Oh, it's available. So we go to external power, and then we should be able to just turn the engines off. Just keep an eye on them, see what happens. Turn some of the lights off around the aeroplane, so the beacon light can come off now. Strobe light can come... No, it was off already. And the nav and logo lights can come off. Taxi nose light is off. Seat belts can come off. So I do wish they'd have Bedlam here, you'd hear behind us when that happens. And a lot of the rest of it isn't properly functional. Obviously you can turn the fuel pumps back off. Okay, so there we go. Should we turn everything off as we might in the real world? So we've got everything off almost. So this can come back off, that puts us back onto batteries. It's interesting, isn't it, when you hear everything dying off and then we turn the batteries off and the plane should go dark after a few moments. Famous last words. See how long it lasts, or if they've even modelled it. It doesn't look like they have, does it? Because we've got nothing running. And you'd expect this to be lighting up like a Christmas tree with power warnings, and it's not. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. It is what it is, isn't it? So that's the LatinVFR Airbus A330 in Flight Simulator. It's good in some ways, it's very basic in lots of ways, and I think the big problem for it is the free Airbus from Headwind might even be better than it in many respects. So I'm not going to get on it about it too much though, so you can each make your own mind up. This is just my opinion. Obviously I'm not an Airbus pilot, very, very few of us are. But yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed, but it's still good fun. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you again soon.